Hey guys, this video is just going to be a game discussion slash review, I guess, of a game I recently finished, and that's Lost Odyssey on the Xbox 360. Took me around 55 hours. That's basically beating the game and getting most of the achievements. There's a few I didn't go for because some of them are a pain in the ass. So I just thought I'd share my brief, well, I'll try to make it brief at least, thoughts on this game. It's known to be well known to be like the best JRPG on the 360. I would disagree with that. Overall, I think this is a good RPG. It's definitely a fun game, a lot of content, absolutely a really beautiful game, and a good storyline, but there were definitely some gameplay quirks with this and some dungeons that really frustrated me, and I'll go into detail on that later. I'll start off with the story, I guess. The story in this is pretty good. It's about a guy named Kame, and he's an immortal. He's lived for thousands of years. I don't want to go too deep into the storyline, but basically he's trying to regain his memories, and him along with a few other immortals that he meets along the way and some mortal characters try to basically overthrow this. Like, the villain in this game is immortal, so that kind of makes things interesting later in the game, in the sense that you can't really defeat this guy, so interesting things happen later in the game, but he's basically a villain and you're trying to, I guess, save the world. It's mostly a save the world type storyline. It's fairly cliched, but the game does things a bit differently, in the sense that there's some immortals throughout the storyline. So the main storyline itself is pretty good. Some of the characters I find are annoying. There are these two characters named Cook and Mac. They're basically little kids and they're with you the entire time. They tend to get on the nerves a bit. The main character is really good. I really like the main character. He's a bit of the silent protagonist type, but he becomes a really great character in the end. Seth Balmore is another character, the lead female character, and she's immortal too. I really like her. She's not the typical female character that you see in most JRPGs. So the main storyline's pretty decent. It's fairly well written for the most part, but ultimately it is kind of cliche. Where this game is great in terms of storytelling are these things called the thousand years of dreams. Basically they're these dreams that you unlock as you go throughout the game, and they're basically hidden memories Kame, the main character, has within him, and you kind of unlock them. And they're basically presented in these kind of like static image type scenes where you go through a lot of text and there's sound effects and music playing. So there's a lot of reading to those, but they're exceptionally well written and really emotionally gripping. They're some of the most emotionally gripping scenes I've ever seen in a video game, and they're by far my favorite part of the game. Every time I'd unlock one, I was excited to see, you know, what it was. Really, they're quite fascinating, and this game's worth playing, I'd say, for those alone. On to, I guess, the visuals now. The visuals in this game are fantastic. It uses the Unreal Engine, and I know a lot of games that use that tend to look kind of shitty, in my opinion. Besides, like, Epic Games, of course, uses it well, but I find a lot of developers that use it, I don't know, their games tend to look kind of ugly. This game, on the other hand, is not. The environments in this game are absolutely amazing. Tons of variety to them. The frame rate is a tad inconsistent, but it didn't really bother me that much. Frame rates never really bother me in games. You know, I like the character designs quite a bit in this. Just the visual style as a whole is quite appealing in this game, and the environments mostly are what I think sells this game. The music in this game is fantastic. I wasn't expecting anything crazy from this game in terms of the music, because I hadn't heard the greatest things in terms of the music in this game, but like most of the tracks in this game are flat out stunning and really beautiful, fit the game perfectly. There's some really epic boss music in this game too. The soundtrack, definitely one of the high points of this game. And I'll move on to the gameplay now, which is the big part of this game, and where I have a bit of some gripes with the game. It's very old school in its approach in terms of a JRPG. The battle system is extremely traditional, turn-based. You've got a ton of different moves to choose from, skills, spells, attacks, things like that. It plays very traditional, like an old school Final Fantasy game. Where it mixes things up, though, is the ring system. And basically, for standard physical attacks, when you use them, you have this ring that you kind of have to time, like a ring, like an outer ring and an inner ring. And when the outer ring hits the inner ring, you have to time your attack, your button press, and you can get either a perfect rating, which increases damage, a good rating, which does normal damage, or a bad rating that does less damage. So that kind of adds a nice action-based element to the battle system. If it didn't have that, I found the battle system probably would have got a bit old to me. So basically, it has that kind of traditional battle system. And another thing that's different about this game is the skill system. Your party is basically made up of 5 party members. You can either have mortals in your team or mortals in your team. Now, mortals gain skills normally like in any other RPG. You level up, you gain different skills. Immortals, on the other hand, don't. And what you have to do in order to make immortals learn skills is skill link them with mortals. So if a mortal has black magic level 1, for instance, and you want your immortal to learn that, you've got to skill link that mortal that has black magic with an immortal that doesn't. And you'll gain SP from fights. And if you gain enough SP, eventually your immortal will gain that skill. So essentially, your immortals can gain every skill in the game. You just got to skill link immortals with mortals. Now, the downside to that is the mortal that has skills that you want to transfer to your immortal has to be in the fight, has to be in your party. So there's a lot of switching out party members if you want to learn certain skills. So obviously there's a lot of strategy there. And it can get actually a bit complicated, and there's a lot of micromanagement that way in terms of the skills. Not to mention accessories in this game. When you equip accessories, they earn you skills as well. And you've got to earn the SP while you have your accessories on. So you're constantly switching accessories on and off. You're constantly switching skills on and off. You're always going through menus. And because skills are learned so rapidly and there's so many of them, pretty much after every battle I got into, I was changing skills. So I know a lot of people, if you're not too into JRPGs or you don't really like a lot of that micromanaging, that could get annoying. I know it certainly did for me at times. And because I prefer an action-based battle system as opposed to a turn-based like in this game, I found myself getting bored rather quickly with the battle system. And where that gets even more annoying is with the dungeons in this game. The dungeons, for the most part, are not bad, but some of them later towards the game have a lot of puzzles and backtracking, and because this game uses random encounters, it gets really annoying really fast. There's a particular dungeon later in the game with tons of different moving platforms and switches, and it really was quite annoying to me, because I was constantly running into battles, and the random encounter rate in this game is very random. Sometimes you'll run into battles non-stop, one after the other, while at other times, if you want to grind experience or SP, battles just won't happen ever, so you have to run around aimlessly hoping a battle will start up, and it gets really annoying. And in terms of that, I really random encounters. I don't know why they're in games anymore. It's especially a game like this that's really great for the most part, and this random encounters drag it down. An interesting thing this game does in terms of experience is they cap your experience in certain areas. So you can never actually become too powerful by grinding for experience. If you want to do well in this game, you actually have to adapt different strategies. And this game has definitely got a nice challenge to it. Disc 3 in particular I found quite difficult due to certain limitations. I won't spoil those, but the game gets quite tough. A lot of the bosses I would die my first couple times because I wasn't sure the proper strategy. you basically have to figure out different strategies to win, and grinding for experience is actually not going to get you anywhere in this game, which that's kind of a love it or hate it thing, I think. I like parts of that, but I hate parts of that, so I'm kind of indifferent towards it. You know, sometimes it bugged me, sometimes it didn't. What else? In terms of the ring system too, you actually can equip different rings in this game too, and they'll give you like different elements to your attacks, different strengths against certain enemies, you know, whether it's the ring is better against beasts or mechanical enemies, and that comes into play a lot in this game in terms of strategy, because in the middle of battles you can actually equip what rings you have on, what weapons you have on. So in order to win a lot of battles, you do actually have to equip your characters in mid-battle quite a lot, especially since this game doesn't have traditional equipment. You can equip a weapon, accessories, and a ring, and that's it. Which actually I do kind of like, and I think that fits this game quite a bit. So the ring system definitely has quite a lot of depth to it. The battle system overall actually has quite a bit of depth to it. So those wanting that from their RPGs, definitely you get that a lot in Lost Odyssey. Now when I said some of the characters were immortal, you'd probably think, oh, does that mean they can't die in battle? They can, but after a few turns, they'll actually come back to life. So the only way to die in this game or get a game over is to have all your party members die or be dead at the same time. So you'd think the game would be not that challenging, but somehow the game actually stays pretty challenging, which is nice to see. What else in terms of the gameplay? They do try to attempt variety in this game. There's some quick time events, there's a stealth segment early on, different things like that happen. Some of them are good, some of them aren't. They're a bit hit and miss, I guess, in that case. In terms of progression, the game starts off fairly linear. There is a world map in this game, but it's not until later in the game that you can explore it fully with different vehicles. And the world map itself, you choose from locations on like a list. So in the early game it is quite linear, but later in the game it definitely opens up quite a bit. There's a bunch of side quests later in the game. I didn't end up doing them all myself. There's one dungeon later. Again, this goes back to the dungeons I don't like. One of the dungeons later in the game, the optional one with the really high level boss, I didn't do it simply because the dungeon is such a pain in the ass in terms of the puzzles and the random encounters. And that's another thing actually. When you do get into a battle in this game, the loading times are quite bad. It takes a really long time for a battle to start up. You know, it's very cinematic. I mean, one of the high points of this game is how cinematic it is. But at the same time, battles take a long time to get into, a long time to finish, and a long time to end. So the game definitely does kind of get repetitive. I couldn't play it in long sessions. You know, I didn't ever quite get addicted to it. So, you know, overall, I didn't find this game to be among the best JRPGs on the system. I enjoyed Tales of Vesperia far more. Even Star Ocean: The Last Hope I actually liked quite a bit better. But yeah, overall, Lost Odyssey still a really good RPG. I really liked it for the most part. I would say, unless you're a hardcore RPG fan, I actually wouldn't recommend this one. Between the challenge level and all the micromanaging, and all the other different problems I had with it, I'd say only RPG fans, I'd say, should play this. And if you are an RPG fan, definitely get on this game. You know, it's definitely still worth playing. You know, a lengthy game, tons of content, good storyline, good characters, and the battle system is, despite my problems with it, it can be a lot of fun, especially the boss battles. I think they're quite good. So that's pretty much my thoughts on Lost Odyssey. Overall, a good game. If I were to give it a score, I guess a 7.5, around there. Worth playing if you like RPGs. In terms of what I'm playing now, I just recently picked up Code of Princess for the 3DS. Luckily, in Canada, we actually did get this cool special edition with a soundtrack and a visual book. I love how Atlas just goes the extra mile in terms of packaging their games and giving you this extra stuff for no added cost. Really awesome. I've played this for a couple hours now. I really like it quite a bit. In terms of gameplay, it's similar to a Guardian Heroes, which I've never played, but I've seen gameplay, and it definitely is similar to this. And I know a lot of people that worked on Guardian Heroes worked on this. Tons of characters from what I can see so far. A really humorous localization so far. Really, the localization team did a great job on this. Really funny. The characters are really charming, and I like the storyline so far. Even though this game definitely doesn't take itself seriously at all. You know, a lot of breaking the fourth wall. Really funny stuff. The visuals are gorgeous, nice anime style. Only problem I have with this so far is the way the game's designed, probably. It's a very mission-based game, which is good for portable gaming. I mean, this is a perfect pick-up-and-play game. I don't know, I'm more of a fan of a traditional storyline, especially considering this is a beat-em-up. And the frame rate in this isn't the best. I gotta say, it drops quite a bit, especially when you have the 3D turned on. I'd say this game's definitely better with the 3D turned off. But overall, I'm enjoying this quite a bit, and I'm sure I'll do a discussion on this when I've beaten the campaign and gotten to play the co-op a bit, because this game's got online, which is pretty cool. And the other game I just started actually a couple hours ago is Xenogears for the PS1, which I've never played before and heard amazing things. I'm only about 3 hours into this, but I'm loving it so far. I have, in fact, no complaints with this game yet. The story is so far very interesting. I love the visuals. The music so far is fantastic. The battle system I really like. You know, I like how it has a traditional world map. I love that stuff. You know, old world maps. But I'm really enjoying this so far. This is probably going to take me a while to beat, so I would think a discussion on this would be coming up in weeks from now. But that's basically it, the discussion on Lost Odyssey. You know, if you've played it, tell me how you think it is. You know, rate, comment, subscribe, and thanks for watching.